I thought I'd share my lost thoughts on death. The island takes those who have overcome their problems and are at peace with themselves. Boone? Boone was obsessed with Shannon. He made all his decisions according to her, always wanting her approval, always cared what he thought. When he let go of her, he was at peace with himself. Then the island took him. Shannon always took advantage of men. She couldn't have a relationship with a guy unless she was going to get something from it, something besides emotional intimacy. She used men to get to what she wanted, mostly money, then dumped them. But then she fell in love with Saeed. She learned to really love someone instead of using them. Since she did this, she solved her major problem, and the island indirectly took her. Mr. Echo. Mr. Echo confessed his sins and was freed of his guilt. He let go of his lifelong burden of killing a man when he was very young. He was then taken. When Echo died, he said, "You're next." So the island waits for people to solve their problems, then takes them. But wait, what about Ana Lucia, Libby, and Scott? Well, the island didn't necessarily take them. Michael decided that he was going to kill Ana Lucia, so Michael killed her. Yes, Ana Lucia shot Shannon, but not before the island provoked her with whispers and confusion. Libby? Libby doesn't it too well, but Libby doesn't fit too well, but I think I can place her where she belongs. Libby had been cured of her insanity, as far as we know, and fallen in love, so the island took her. Michael accidentally shot her, but he didn't decide to. And lastly, Scott. Scott was not taken by the island, but by Ethan, the other. Adding to my theory, this week's episode is named The Cost of Living. I believe the cost of living is to struggle and not to have a perfect life, which you were at peace with. Wow.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts.
Okay, this is from my buddy Nate, referring to Lost Podcast 5. I was kind of curious why you guys didn't touch on the references to Christ's resurrection in the airplane scene. The stone was rolled away, the empty tomb. There's also a theme of empty graves beginning to develop. When Jack found his dad's casket, there wasn't a body inside. That's because he's the man in the eye patch.
Oh, here we go again.
The real Henry Gale's wife's grave was empty, although that obviously could have been part of Ben's ruse. They did exhume the marshal, but I wonder if Ana Lucia's body would still be in her grave. Anyway, just some thoughts.
Good thoughts.
Thanks, Nate. Here's one. Here's another one from Kevin.
Kevin, all right. First off, I really enjoy your podcast. I stumbled across it when I was looking for Lost Podcast. Great balance between, I've heard many, but this by far the best. Thanks a lot.
Yes, we like to be the best.
Yes. The best! As we saw in Saeed's flashback, one of the higher-ups in the Army was the man who was in the hatch. I forgot his name. That was Kelvin, right? Yeah, before Desmond. What if the government was involved? When the plane crashed, the government stopped the investigation into finding where the plane was due to the location of the island, or worry that the public would want some insight into the Dharma Initiative, Hanzo Foundation experiments. I find it hard to believe that the public wouldn't look into the plane crash. As far as the black smoke creature that killed Echo, I think that is one of the Dharma Initiative's experiments that went wrong and forced an end to the DI presence on the island. Hopefully you guys will read this on a podcast. Wow, we did it.
We did. Kevin, see there, we read it. So your hopes and dreams are fulfilled. I'm glad about that. All right, this one is Thoughts on Echo by Starfood 2003. Hi, this is Starfood 2003, and I'm writing to say, first off, I love your podcast. I think it's one of the winniest ones around, and last week's show proved many of your theories right in some way or another. Thank you. I like to be called right. Anyways, my brother and I are huge Lost fans and always dissect each episode to bits. And we came up with some good thoughts about Echo and Locke that fit nicely with the things you've been mentioning. If you look at Jack, Locke, and Echo from an allegorical standpoint of view, that is, they all represent some ideal. Jack represents realistic cynicism. Locke represents zealous New Age spiritualism. And Echo represents standard traditional religion. All three of these have their merits, and if you look at Lost, it becomes apparent that one usually is working to check and balance the others. Thus, the last week's episode was extremely significant. In relation to the hatch, Jack never wanted to push the button at all, and consistently goaded Locke for thinking that he was actually doing something useful. Of course, Locke eventually lost faith, when he saw the psychological experiments were ongoing. Echo stepped in and took over the role of the button pusher. If we take Season 2's events at face value, which one, Jack, Locke, or Echo, was actually right all along? Echo. If you look at it allegorically, the cynic prompted doubt in the zealot, which in turn prompted domination of traditional religion. Religion won, right? Wrong! Desmond, the atypical person with no attachment to any spiritual system, as far as we know, survived the implosion of the hatch and emerged with supernatural powers. But if you look at his actions so far this season, he is just repeating the patterns of old Locke from Season 1. Aloofness, eerie powers, uncanny knowledge. Most people are saying they are glad that Locke himself is also acting more like he used to. But please remember that old Locke was really quite scary. His determination and stubborn belief in crazy things ended up killing Boone and setting off the chain of events that led us to where we are now. His unwillingness to be a slave endangered the lives of all the people on the island and possibly led to the death of Mr. Echo, since we don't know the exact nature of the smoke monster yet. Thus, what happens when people are no longer willing to spend their lives pushing the button, which is steadfast devotion to the unknowable? Religion dies, and the zealot rules the day. Season 3 so far has confirmed that Locke has been right since day one about the island and all of its mysteries, which is possibly the scariest thing of all. Don't get me wrong, I think Locke is an extremely compelling character, but his choices have seldom led to positive consequences. If he's right, what further destruction will he wreak? I have a couple of things to mention that are unrelated to the discussion above. Jim Carrey is making a film coming out February 2007 called The Number 23. A cursed number that is incidentally part of Hurley's bad numbers and affects Jim Carrey's character much the same way that numbers do Hurley. It pervades his life and curses him in certain respect, even with a reference to the devil. So check out the trailer on Yahoo Movies. Last spoiler alert, I watched the promo for next week's episode and saw that Ben is holding Echo's cross. This must indicate in some way, shape, or form that Ben and the others have some connection to the black smoke. I can't tell you any more, but see for yourself that Ben is holding it. Thanks, and I can't wait for next week's finale, Starfood 2003.
Wow, she's intense.
Thank you, Starfood. You're wonderful. And I know us reading pieces of paper probably isn't all that compelling, but it's a video podcast. What do you want from us? All right, Steve.
All right.
The next one.
This is from the administrator at the Lost Experience.
Actually, I think it's just down here.
Oh, from Kazi.
Yeah.
Okay, this one.
From Kazi, yes.
Hi guys, I love your podcast. I think it's very well done and I enjoy it very much. I took the liberty of linking your site on my site at gizmonews.com. I get over 2,000 hits per week and will direct some traffic to your site. Would you guys mention my site on your show? We just did.